This is Tulip.
And this is Cassidy.
And you are joining us for another episode of The Good News, the Gospel According to AMC's Preacher.
The final episode of season 1, finally!
Right, finally. Just in time to recap and watch season 2. Which hopefully will be on time for, or at least a little more on time.
Hopefully. And you can binge watch season 1 now on AMC, and you can binge listen to us.
There you go.
In preparation for season 2.
And as always, you can find us at Biters. We got really good feedback on our finale episode for Biters, so that was cool.
We did.
I kind of thought people would be off-put by the rambles.
We did the wacky at the end.
Yeah.
We were all pretty loopy, and I don't think any of us were drinking.
It was good, though. I enjoyed it.
It was.
So, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so this was episode 10, or at least that's kind of what it was. I still don't know how to number the episodes in the
I know,
season.
they have to fix that for season 2. No, none of this pilot and then episode 1. It's got to be fixed. This is episode 10.
I sure as hell hope they do.
Yes. This episode is Call and Responses. Or Call and Response.
I'm going to tell you honestly, when I first saw the title, I thought, okay, it's like a piece of music, call and response music, which you see a lot in church. And I actually looked up kind of what call and response was, and it's used commonly in African music, Indian as in from the country of India, Indian music, and it's also used commonly in Cuban music. And they said that it was the African influence on Cuban music that caused it to be a form there. So I was kind of thinking along those lines and, call and response in churches. And then I was like, duh, it's call and response. Jesse makes a phone call and he gets a response. I totally was overthinking it.
You were, because I was like, wow, like I've never heard of this. This is like Bible study with Barnell.
We do have some stuff for Bible study this week.
We do. Finally, after a long hiatus, we will be bringing you numerology hour with the Bible.
Right. So, it actually was a really simple name and a simple answer for what the name meant. And yeah, I made it big. So how did you rate the episode?
I actually rated it, and I wavered back and forth. I kept going higher, I kept going lower, but I finally settled on a 3.8 meat babies.
So we're pretty close. I did 4 out of 5 vampires, government agents, and psychotic preachers. Which I thought was a great line.
That was a great line. That's funny.
The numbers, so it actually had a 10% increase from the previous episode, Finish the Song, and the final same-day numbers were 1.722 million. In Live Plus 3, the season's episodes have been averaging 3 million views, but this finale is still down 28% from the premiere, which really bummed me out.
Yeah.
And I know we're spoiled living in the Walking Dead world, because if you don't get 10 to 15 million in a same-day view, it feels bad.
Yeah.
And I do have to remind myself that these are actually good numbers in other worlds.
Yeah, but it kills me when I see that like shows like the Kardashians and stuff beat, Preacher,
right.
Which I don't judge you if you watch the Kardashians. I freaking like Dr. Phil, so, to each his own.
And I'm totally in my murder phase, so I can't blame anybody. I'm almost done with that Ted Bundy book, by the way. Hello, murderinos, if any of you are out there.
Yes, I know. There's actually a funny South Park out about, like murder TV or something, because so many people are addicted to like Dateline ID with all of the shows about like spouses killing each other and stuff.
I'm totally Murder TV and Murder Library.
And I fall asleep to Dateline ID. It's soothing.
Well, I've been putting myself to sleep with the latest Ted Bundy book, so I get it. But we digress.
Yes, we digress. Which it seems to help us, like on our other show. People loved it when we started talking about like completely off topic stuff.
The spooky chef.
The spooky chef. Too bad we couldn't be like Chris Hardwick and make hashtags trend. Hashtag
Right.
chef.
We'll have to give it a try. We'll get one of our number one fans involved, and I'm sure he alone will be able to get it trending.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only other thing I had to say about ratings for this episode is that I was on the Preacher Wiki today, and this got the best ratings from fans who were contributing to the wiki of any of the episodes, which I didn't agree. I still think the pilot's the best episode.
Yeah, yeah, but like we were talking before the show, this episode was very reminiscent for me of the pilot, to where I was just you're left sitting there at the end going, "Wait, what just happened?"
And it's funny because I didn't feel that way about the pilot. I didn't feel so much that way about this as I did last week's. But a lot of stuff went down in this episode.
So is that because you read the comic, right?
I haven't read all of the comics. I am mostly through the first graphic novel. So I know some of the story.
Right. So, and I don't know if we've discussed this or if I heard this and forgot it or what, but so I had the benefit of watching Talking Preacher afterwards.
Which I'm really jealous. I wish I had recorded that.
Let's see if we can burn it for you.
And a nod to Chris Hardwick for those who are listening, the 28 people who like our Facebook page. Thank you. Talking with Chris Hardwick starts this weekend.
Yes, I am so looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So anyway, on Talking Preacher, they were saying that this none of this was really in the comic book. Season 1 of Preacher season 2 starts off where the comic book starts off, the road trip.
A few of the ideas in this season were from the comic book, but in terms of storylines, no, I agree.
Right.
There was a little bit in this, which we'll talk about.
And I was stunned. Like, I rewound it because I was like, did I just hear that right? Like, we went through all of this, and yeah, like, if none of it was in the comic book, like, this is an entire setup for the road trip. Like, I don't know if I knew that and just somehow blocked it out or what, but that's crazy.
Well, and I really get the sense that this is just a chance. This first season was a chance for Seth Rogen to do an homage to the comic books.
Yeah, yeah. And I kind of don't get how we're gonna go where we're going in season 2, and if you read the comic books, how you didn't know any of this, or none of this happened, or you see it in flashback, or how that works.
But you do know some of it, and now I'm so remiss. It's been so many months since I read what I read of the comics that I need to go back. But you know who the cowboy is.
Yeah, and there's Kim Cannon,
right?
And yeah, Sheriff Root, and
so
Eugene. I'm totally curious as to how that is explained in the comic books without having seen everything that we saw in season 1.
Well, dang it! Now I'm gonna have to put it back on my virtual stack of books.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go
Which is
get it on Amazon.
Ginormous.
Yeah.
So, this was written and directed by Sam Catlin, who is one of the producers. And his big claim to fame is that he was a producer for Breaking Bad. So I've said that before. It just kind of explains his links to AMC and his pull with AMC.
Yeah. And some callbacks in the episode. The road that Fiorin de Blanc. Yeah. Right. That's the same road in Breaking Bad.
Right.
Jesse. Yep.
Yeah.
Not Jesse. Walter.
And we saw that van and that stretch of road again.
Yeah.
Which was cool.
Yeah. Yep.
I figured real quick we could talk about Emily as our featured cast member because we haven't talked about her. So Emily is played by an actress named Lucy Griffiths. She was born in 1986 in Brighton, England. So this cast, too, is populated by a bunch of people who aren't American, who are
Oh, it
pretending to be
is
Americans.
so weird to see them on in interviews.
Oh,
I'm like,
right.
you're not talking right. Stop it.
Well, and Lucy Griffiths has a great accent in this series. I mean, she really did do it incredibly well. I would have never guessed without looking her up that she was not American.
Well, and with all of the Brit actors on The Walking
Walking
Dead,
Dead, yeah.
many of them have actually said, as someone with a British accent, it is actually easier to do a Southern accent than it is to do like, a Northern accent or a Boston accent.
It's hard to see, but they're related. I mean, I know that they're intimately related, and that really was the evolution of the English accent. But it's hard to see. Hard to hear. I mean, not painful to hear, just difficult to tease out.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else about Lucy Griffiths? Oh, so her big role before this, she played Marion in BBC's Robin Hood. Huh. She might be familiar to American watchers because she had a role in True Blood. I don't know how big it was because I've only watched a bit of True Blood, but she was Eric Northman's sister.
Yeah, Nora. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this sounds awful. She's not a memorable character, but she was in like 21 episodes, so.
Oh, wow. So she had a lot of time on True Blood.
Yeah, she did.
Well, that was a really big cast, so I can really see how only the couple of key people were people who really had a lot of pull in that.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound right, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. It a lot can get lost when there's so much going on.
Yeah. And this too, quite honestly, I think, because, this is a big cast. There's a lot going on, although I have some things to say about that too. So it looks like we're going to get 13 episodes in the next season, which starts on June 25th. There were only 10 episodes in this season, so I hope that doesn't mean we're losing Preacher, but I'm not sure how much longer AMC is going to bankroll this if it's not pulling big numbers.
Yeah, because I know in Talking Preacher they were joking about how it takes Eugene 2 to 3 hours in the makeup chair to do our space. And they were talking about their ideas of hell, living the same thing over and over again.
Uh-oh.
And of course, the actor who plays Eugene is like basically just sitting in the makeup chair and then being told that your scene was cut for the day and having to come back and do it all over again the next day. And just having that makeup done over and over. And so Seth Goldberg and Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg were like, so if we do this for the 7 or 8 seasons that are, in the comic books, then we basically made your living hell.
Yeah, yeah.
So they kind of, they're realistic, but in their heads, they had it, where they could possibly go, 7 or 8 seasons. So I hope they don't end it too.
I know. I'm worried. But, we can't spend our whole time worried, right? We've got to just enjoy what we can talk about.
Yep.
So we may as well go into our good news.
Our good news.
Yeah. So what's yours?
So I absolutely loved the scene when Tulip shows Jesse Carlos in the trunk, and he goes, they fight about him and everything, and they go back out, and Jesse's going to shoot him in the head.
Right.
And then they just kick the snot out of him. But Tulip is walking at him with the crowbar with this big smile on her face, and she hands it over, and she's like, "For you." And he takes it, and he's like, "What is going on?" And Jesse's like, "That's not fair." And takes out his gun and hands it to Carlos, and Carlos knows what's going to happen, and he's like, "I don't want it." So Jesse points it at him. He's like, "Okay, I want it." I loved that whole scene. It was very well played out and it was funny. And, after the seriousness of like, they're going to shoot Carlos in the head, all of a sudden they're just being goofs about it.
Well, and I have to tell you, Tula totally won my heart because she was like, don't do it there. It'll crack my axle. I was like, now that's Tulip.
Yep. Yep. Her in that car. But there was a lot of darkness in this episode and there was a lot of seriousness. I mean, we saw the scene where Tulip loses the baby and they get double crossed by Carlos, and he does it all because he is jealous of them. I mean, how petty and how just awful is all of that because he was jealous.
And, I've got to tell you, I totally appreciated getting that backstory.
Yeah.
Because it made more sense about why he did what he did, even though it was horrible. And it made more sense about why Tulip was so passionate about making him pay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad enough that he abandoned them, but then to find out that she and Jesse lost a baby because of it.
Yeah, and it had been alluded to previously, right. I believe.
It had, because it wasn't news to me, but then I was trying to go back and remember where they talked about it.
Yeah. But all because he was a douchebag who was jealous that they're happy. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So my good was him getting the snot beat out of him.
So my good was Sheriff Root's reveal that he knew that Cassidy was a vampire.
Who knew that Sheriff Root was paying attention?
I know. All those goofy hats. I just thought you were being an asshole. But I like the way that he did it. I mean,
Sheriff Root is a real one to call out somebody on goofy hats, by the way.
Good point. The non-fitting sheriff's hat.
His 5-gallon hat on his 10-gallon head.
I love that. But I like the way that he did it, and I thought it was really funny that Cassidy was like, and I thought interrogations like this were illegal, and Sheriff Root says, not in Texas. Not in Texas. So I also felt like Cassidy really obviously hit the nail on the head when he was like, wouldn't you just be a little relieved if Eugene totally disappeared?
And you could just see into Sheriff Root's soul.
Yes.
Because Cassidy
was true.
Cassidy was saying out loud what he never could.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he just empties his clip into Cassidy and lets him go.
Yeah, free to go.
And I'm wondering who the heck Cassidy drained to show up at the church looking as good as he did.
Maybe there was some left in the pump pot.
I don't think there was enough.
Yeah.
I have a couple of dogs I'd like to give to him right now.
It was really nice of the sheriff's office to donate the hat for him to get to the church, because you noticed he was wearing a sheriff's hat.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a sheriff's hat. That's awesome.
I'm sure he probably just picked it up off of somebody's desk. Some poor sheriff's deputies looking for his hat.
The other thing that was really funny when he came into the church, and I know this is kind of diverging a little bit from his scene with Sheriff Root, but he kind of just looked like your average Anvil citizen.
Yeah.
You know?
He looked totally normal.
Yeah, he looked like he would fit right in. Sheriff's hat and all.
Yeah.
Well, so what'd you have down for Job?
Let's see, where'd it go? I kind of had two bads, but I think I'm going to move one of my bads to
The Word.
The Word.
I know we haven't podcasted in so long that we're not great on our categories, but we'll get there.
Yeah, I was gonna call it Rotting Poopery, but
I know, me too.
Podcast. I was really disappointed that Fior stepped off the shuttle alone
without DeBlanc. I know.
Yeah. So, can angels die?
Right, because we were talking last week about he was shot in hell. Does he die in hell?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, maybe he reincarnates somewhere back on Earth. Maybe you just can't reincarnate in hell. We see a scene at the end where that might not be confirmed. And it's weird because the cowboy, as far as I know at this point, is just a man who went to hell. So how does he have the power to kill angels?
So he is called the Saint of
Uh-huh.
Killers.
Yep.
And I think that he's something bigger than a man who went to hell. I don't know how it all knits together yet, but I mean
Yeah.
the fact that he was the butcher of Gettysburg, the fact that he totally gunned down that whole saloon, it just makes you wonder if he didn't have such evil that he became something more powerful in hell. I don't know.
Yeah, and on Talking Preacher, they did go into that he did something that is just so unredeemable that he is who he is.
Did they say what it was, or did
No.
they just allude to
Nope.
maybe it was stuff during the war?
They just said he did something so
Ah,
and I mean, he did slaughter a schoolhouse full of children.
that's
So,
true. That's
and
true.
there is a lot of stuff, like listening to him talk about it, there is a lot of stuff that they can allude to on the show, or they can change a few things to make it suitable for television. So I don't know if we will ever get the full story on the show, if there is the full story in the comics, or if it will be changed to make it more palatable for the masses. I don't know.
I'm not quite sure that they're really concerned about suitable for television, but that is also in my word episode
Yeah,
or
well,
word
one of the
category.
things that they said on Talking Preacher, it confirmed something that I was like, yeah, that's gross.
Oh, right on.
I, I thought it in my head, so I'm just as big of a sicko as they are, so I really can't judge. So
Well, that's one of the reasons we love the show.
yeah,
Because
and so
it's so complicated and so bizarre, and there are definitely some very twisted moments.
yes, yes. So what was yours?
So my Job was a question: did anybody from Anvil survive?
Yes,
I'm thinking about all of the people that we're invested in. I'm not even sure that I can say that we care about, but people like Emily, people like Donnie and his wife. I can't for the life of me remember her
Sheriff
name.
Root.
Sheriff Root. Yeah.
Betsy.
Betsy, good. And
Donnie,
Walter,
Betsy.
I mean, I don't know that we're necessarily as fans invested in Walter, but he's a big part of Tulip's life. All the women from the Toad Vine,
Yeah.
you know.
And Linus was dead before the blast, so
That was
we
pretty
lost
classic.
Linus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so poetic. I mean, on the bus with his pants around his ankles and
Yep.
little girls running out of the bus.
At first when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, he's unloading all of those little girls into his house, luring them there because it's the end of the world and God is lost.
Yeah.
But oh, I was so glad to see him dead. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Triumph
Yeah.
of the little girls.
Yeah, and at the hands of all the girls he creeped on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Revelation?
Yeah. Monty Python God.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So, okay,
they
number one,
mentioned this
that was
on
that was an awful portrayal of God. Awful, awful,
Right.
awful. But
And they talked about it on Talking Preacher, and I actually had written down Monty Python God, because when I saw it, I'm like, this is like a sketch from Monty Python.
yes.
And on Talking Preacher, that's exactly like what they were going for.
Oh,
that's
that's
what they
awesome.
said, Monty Python God. And they said that this is the kind of God that most people have in their image, a man with a white hair and white beard at a throne.
Okay, again, totally cracked up when Tulip was like, told you he was white.
Yeah. I loved that too.
I've got to tell you that was an excellent catch, and it's so cool to have those moments where you totally see into what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Where you
Yeah.
can totally hook in like that in an episode. I love that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that whole scene was just, I was like, really? Like, God's on FaceTime? They even said that on Talking Preacher, too. It was like, God has FaceTime.
That was so funny.
And Jesse using the word. Apparently he,
Right.
did we know that did he use it against Bjorn DeBlanc? I think he did. I think he made him like stop fighting him or something like that.
So I have a couple of comments about that. One was, how come Betsy and Donnie were suddenly so pro Preacher and Tulip? There was part of me that wondered if maybe he used the word in that circumstance.
Well, they did.
Oh, go
They
ahead.
did have the discussion,
Right.
yeah, where he's like, "I've
Merciful.
yeah, yeah,
Where Donnie and Preacher were both merciful to each other, but it just seemed like they were totally sold.
yeah."
And much more so than I expected them to be. So I had questions about the use of the word there. But also, what's really funny? Once again, rewatching, I realized that Jesse and I both, right around the same time, were like, this isn't God. And it was right before he used the word. And I thought that was so funny. That preacher did it to me. That preacher made me say that.
Because I really thought this was like the god of the Preacher universe, and I was like, really?
You're like, I think the angels are cooler.
The Monty Python god is God. Yeah, I was hooked, line and sinker. Yeah. Yeah.
So my revelation was, it's another question. How did Tulip and Cassidy, or not Tulip and Cassidy, I'm sorry, Tulip and Jesse get out of charges for shooting that bank guard? I mean, did they just never get caught? It sounds like
I think they got away.
Do you? Because, I remember Jesse saying at the beginning of the series, yeah, I did some mighty bad things before I came home, or something like that. And so I always thought that it was known that he was a bit of a crook. And so that was a bit of a surprise to me. I was actually like, wait a minute, how'd they get out of it? So, I mean, you're right. They must have escaped. If they
didn't show him like being surrounded by police cars. You just heard him off in the distance.
Right. And if they had actually killed a guard in the commission of a robbery, they'd be rotting in a federal pen. So,
oh, yeah.
It was a question. It was more, how did this happen?
Yeah. Yeah. How did we get from here to there?
Mm-hmm.
There to here. Yeah.
Although, again, I felt like this episode was much better about taking us from there to here than the last one, than the previous episode.
It definitely tied some things in, some questions that we've had all season. But yeah.
Although, again, I just flashed on that coworker who was like, I just have no idea what's going on, even after this episode, and it makes me worry that's generally why people are walking away from this series. I mean, a 28% drop from pilot to finale, that's big.
Well, do you think it's going to be... It's going to be pared down next season because it's really just a road trip with the three of them. I mean, and maybe four. We may see Eugene again at some point, at least in Jesse's conscience.
Well, so that is totally what I thought when I was like, I wonder if anybody from Anvil survived. At this point, it looks like we're going to have the cowboy, Fior. Yeah. We'll probably get DeBlanc back, but I don't know that for sure. We're going to have the Seraphim.
Do you think... yeah, it's up to, do angels die when the cowboy shoots them, or
well, that's a good question.
Do they resurrect in heaven, have to come back down?
Maybe we won't have the Seraphim. I guess that'll be a clue to DeBlanc's fate.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we'll have our three central characters. So I do kind of feel like it had gotten too big, it had gotten too complicated, and therefore...
This is just a quick way to get rid of everyone.
This is a way to pare it down and really focus on the road trip.
Yeah. Which is really too bad because there was a lot to keep track of,
but I feel like there's quirky storylines that we might not ever get an answer to.
Yeah, like the whole scene after the church when Emily's sitting her children down and being like, it's okay, we never needed God, like we're just gonna keep on going, and like that was just, like that was such a real moment, that would be something that you would have to do for, people are always like, well, how do I explain this to my children?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you sit down and you explain it to them in terms they can understand. And she did that, and it was great. And, like, not having children, I will never know what that's like, but I think she did a good job.
And now we think that Emily and her kids are
in
Ash.
heaven.
With Miles.
Not.
With Miles, by the way, did you catch her line where she said, Miles is just going to meet God in another place?
Yes,
I thought
did.
that was really funny.
Do you think that Miles is in heaven? I don't think Miles is a good guy. He totally covered up for Kincannon, all those murders that Kincannon did.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think Miles
there's
heaven.
definitely that line of thinking that if you ask for forgiveness, all is equal. So,
but
maybe with his last breath, as Cassidy was sucking him dry.
I was gonna say, is Emily in heaven because Emily technically killed Miles? I mean, Cassidy did, but she facilitated.
Well, and even worse, she's just set her kids down and said we never needed God anyway.
Yeah. Which, okay, so I think are we moving on?
We're in the Word. We're doing our preacher version of Rotten Potpourri.
We meandered into the Word.
We did.
So you're in a church with a bunch of other people and God shows up and you find out that it's actually not God. It's one of the other angels pretending to be God because God is missing.
Right.
And you guys are just going to go crazy like there is no God. You just actually had confirmation that there's a God, there's a heaven, and there is most likely a hell.
That's a good point.
Like, everyone just went wild. Like, and like the world was coming to an end, which it did for them eventually, but that's beyond the point.
Do you think it was just that complete loss of faith, though?
I do, but I'm just wondering how you would lose faith. I think at that point I would gain faith. Like, it's confirmation, it's not like you called God and nobody picked up.
Right.
Somebody up there picked up, you know.
That's true.
I don't know what's legit, but some of it is.
So maybe they were just so disappointed that heaven would put on this elaborate ruse to deceive them. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out too, because you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, it totally confirmed their theology, but with a twist.
Yeah. Like, I think my first instinct would have been Jesse's first instinct. We're going to find God, and he's going to answer some questions, or we're going to kick his ass.
Did you love that Tulip was just totally feisty right away?
Oh, yeah. Well, when they're walking out of the church, and I think Cassidy said, Padre, where are we going? And he's like, Tulip wants French fries. She just smiled. It was so adorable. But yeah, I'm just like, everyone went Lord of the Flies on us. And it's like, really? That my first thing would have, I think I probably would have been kind of like Emily, where I'm like, okay, like, let's just keep living, And then I'd have been like, well, where is God? Like, I think somebody needs to, like, put a missing persons flyer up or something.
This is their version of a missing persons flyer. They're going to go on a road trip. Which, by the way, since we're in our version of rotting potpourri, maybe it's heavenly potpourri. Maybe it's burning potpourri.
Incense. It's frankincense.
It's frankincense. I actually thought Preacher did itself a big favor with the commercial that happened during The Walking Dead the other night, because it was a really good trailer. It looked really good.
Yeah.
Did you finally watch it?
I did finally watch it. After I watched my first watch of Preacher, and then I did a rewatch. I finally watched, and I think it was Brian from Biters who said, watching the trailer, it wouldn't have really given anything away that happened in the season finale. And it's right. He's right. And it like I said, it kind of looks like an entirely new show. We are beginning anew. And I think that might help. We'll have less of a story and character development, a lot more action, probably a lot more comedy, some
great car driving.
Yeah. So, I mean, we may see a resurgence or a renewal for the show.
I hope that they raised some eyebrows and hooked a few people in with that ad. I mean, it
Yeah,
definitely was appropriately timed because, as we said on Biters, the season finale of Walking Dead was great. So I think it drew a lot of people in.
yeah, definitely.
So, did you see the sign that we first saw in this episode?
Mm, the what's the name of Anvil? Established 1822.
Oh, no, I was thinking about the
Okay.
Run, Preacher, Run.
Oh yes, I love that.
And then I laughed because I had just finished watching The People versus O.J. Simpson. And of course, there were lots of people who were holding Run, O.J. Run. And then I looked up the original, the Run, Bambi, Run. Do you remember that?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Bambi Bembenek.
Yeah.
Charged with second-degree murder. Playboy Bunny charged with second-degree murder.
Yeah. She was her husband and he was a cop or something.
I didn't look that deeply into it. I just was like, that's the Run, Bambi, Run sign, only it's for a preacher.
Yeah, I it's funny. I actually, what I remember of the Run Bambi Run was it was I probably saw it on Lifetime Network.
Yes, or like a Dateline or Forensic Files or something like that. Yeah.
In the 80s. Yeah.
Yes,
wow.
Totally.
That's funny. That is totally funny.
So that kind of brings up sorry, I'm gonna
go ahead.
say this real quick. This kind of brings up something else in the episode for me. So Sheriff Root going through Cassidy's record and saying the dates of interest: 1961, 1950, 1940, 1922.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool.
Yeah. What really gets me is when we first saw Cassidy, or not when we first, but one of the first times we saw Cassidy, he was calling this like mysterious like vampire coven or something that was supposed to be helping him, and so doesn't he change his identity? Don't they like every couple dozen years like just like move and start over with a new identity?
He's a pretty lazy vampire. But
he's a shite vampire.
He is a shite vampire. I love it. That's so funny. But that also brings up, okay, so what happened to his vampire coven? Are they going to come through for him? Apparently not. It's been 10 episodes.
Yeah, I think they have just sort of left him for dead.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yikes.
So where do you think we're going to look for God? Like, where do you start?
I don't know. I do know that this is a comic storyline, but I don't know enough about the series because I had not read it before getting exposed to the television show. I don't know enough about the series yet to know where they even begin.
Yeah.
It looks like they obviously don't begin in Anvil, or else they would be toast. If
this were a Kevin Smith show, I would say, start at any place that has skee ball. You get the reference, right?
I totally get the reference.
That's funny. But the casino that Cassidy worked at was the Casino of Babylon, or the Babylon.
Right, it was Babylon.
To do with Babylon.
That was the name of the casino.
Maybe they can go back there. Because where else would you find God?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess that's the question of season 2. Where will you find God?
Yep.
At least we know we're gonna get season 2.
Yeah. Yeah. 13 episodes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I wanted to bring up, and this might go into what you were talking about that they were saying about making things palatable or not, but the kink images throughout this first season, manifesting this time in the double-fisted toy, and at the end with the person who is supposed to be dealing with the methane and the waste plant, engaging in some very kinky activity with the person we are assuming is his wife.
Nope.
No.
He was talking to his wife on the phone.
I just assumed she came over.
And it's actually in the synopsis. Let me see if I can find it. A danger sign flashes on the control room. A prostitute tries to stop the alarm as Pappy lies dead in the room. Uh-oh, she says through the ball gag in her mouth.
Do you wonder if she's maybe one of the Toadville or the Toadvine girls?
I would think so. I would think there wouldn't be a
burgeoning industry in Anvil.
Yeah, much competition. But yeah, and like, so we find that's one of the things is we find out what the control room is. It's not some nefarious hell place, except that it kind of is.
Right.
I like what a horrible job. He seems to do it well right up until the end, and seems to enjoy it and be a company man.
Okay, so my other question was, was he dead? He looked dead.
He was dead. Yeah,
okay.
He died with a smile on his face and his eyes open.
Okay, now, so what did they say about crass things or making things palatable, or what was the comment on Talking Preacher?
Okay, so one of the creepier images, and of course it's Kincannon,
holding the meat baby.
Holding the meat baby in the parka.
Is that their meat woman? Is that their nod to that?
Yes. So I was like, oh, he probably has sex with the meat dolls too, and he does.
Yes,
in the comics, he does. Like they mentioned that on the show, on Talking Preacher, and I'm like, oh dear Lord, like but I thought of it too, so that makes me just as sick.
So hopefully not with the one that's supposed to represent his daughter.
Yeah, no, I don't think that.
Ugh.
No, but yeah, I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
So that was their way to make that palatable.
But the thing that's so interesting is, again, they're taking a lot of risks in other ways. How
do you mean?
Just the, like I said, the kink imagery and well, it's kind of probably offensive to people who are deeply religious.
Well, it's a show about, a preacher who has done horrible things, and he actually continues to do horrible things, and not very godly people all around. So if you are offended by such things, I doubt you're a fan of the show.
Yeah, you probably bailed at the first episode.
Yeah.
By the way, we saw the final resting of Tom Cruise's ashes in this episode.
In space.
Yes.
Of course, to be with Xenu. All hail our new overlord, Xenu, if you're listening.
My brain totally didn't go there. That is so funny. Oh my God.
Full disclosure, everybody, I accidentally took a Lunesta as one of my morning pills, so I've been kind of stoned all day. I actually work today. I don't work with heavy equipment, so we're good. And I don't work around, people giving other people medications, so...
Thank God.
Yeah, we're fine. But they did confirm on the show, and it was very, very subtle. I only caught it on my second watch. I was trying to, at the end, after the methane explosion in the town, everyone's, we assume is blown up. The TV says there's, sure to be no survivors. I actually thought they were mannequin legs sticking out of the ground. And they were like, you actually get to see a piece, you get to see Betsy's legs sticking out, and she still has the one Dorothy shoe on.
I totally missed that.
Yeah.
Dang.
It's on the right side of the screen as Seraphine is stumbling around. I thought it was a mannequin, but she was wearing the Dorothy.
She had her little Dorothy costume on.
Yeah.
Well, I think that confirms that everybody in Anvil is dead.
Even Sheriff Root,
unless, I don't know. God.
There was so much darkness. It was almost as if heaven was wiping it off the map. We saw Tracy Loach's mom putting a pillow over her face. Yeah. We saw the little girls killing Linus. And there was a little bit blurb in there about what's his name? Betsy's husband, Donnie and Betsy having bedroom issues.
Yeah.
And of course,
Well,
Pappy and his prostitute, and just
and the mascots.
Yeah, and the mascots. Oh, we talked about this before the show.
Right.
The mascots were and they said on the show, on Talking Preacher, that the mascots were kind of a Romeo and Juliet, and Pedro the prairie dog
yeah.
had hung himself, so Larry the Red Chief went with him.
So sad.
Yeah, so there was just, it was almost like the destruction of Babylon, That's what I took from it.
Yeah, it definitely was crazy. But at the same time, I don't think that this version of heaven has much room to speak.
No, but it was a very convenient way to get rid of everyone who had seen the terrible FaceTime with non-God.
Now that's a great point too. I totally didn't realize that, but that is probably exactly why it happened.
We have seen the dials tick up on the meter in the methane plant before, but was it Pappy's time to go, or did somebody take him out and make sure that nobody was around to pull the right lever?
I think you're onto something. They may not answer that. We may not have it ever confirmed in the series, but I think you're exactly right. Because why would you want all of those people who had this disastrous FaceTime with a fake god, but confirmation that heaven exists, why would you want them out and about and talking about it?
See, this is why we do the podcast, and this is why you listen.
Because my little sister is brilliant.
I have moments of brilliance.
Well, we all have to have them every now and then. You just have an awful lot of them around this show.
And there was an awful lot of numbers in this show.
Yeah, we might as well break into Bible study with Marnell.
Yeah. So, I'll do some little quick, weird, interesting things, to get them out of the way. When Sheriff Root was talking to Cassidy and he was rattling off the dates, two of the dates kind of meant something. I guess the New English Bible was first published in 1961.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that was one of the dates that Sheriff Root rattled off. And until 1950, the King James Version was, quote-unquote, the Bible. So those two dates did have a biblical reference, 1961 and 1950.
I didn't know that.
I couldn't find anything big of relevance. I didn't spend too much time on it for 1940 and 1922, though, so maybe something to go back and look at. And then we had the countdown clock, which in the beginning, was I the only one confused about what the heck we were counting down to?
We were counting down to their phone call, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm like, what are we counting down to? And like, of course, the first number you see is 1722, and you don't know that you're actually counting down. And so I was like, 1722, that has to be a Bible reference.
Is that the one that you told me about earlier?
No, not.
Oh,
no.
okay.
Proverbs 17:22 is, a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones.
Oh, wow. That's really appropriate for the congregation.
It is. It very, very much is, because, everyone was so happy to see God. I mean, just everyone was so excited and everything. And then to be crushed, have their spirits crushed. And then there was a giant explosion and everything turned to dust. So that was very kind of on the nose for that one. So, the second number we see in the episode is actually 1822.
That's the one you were talking about.
Yeah, that's we see it on the road sign as Tulip is driving past. Annville, Texas, established 1822. Not a Bible passage that I like very much because it is used in a horrible way, and we will just get it out of the way. Leviticus 18:22, do not have sexual relations with a man as one does with a woman. That is detestable.
I think it refers to the mascots. That's
Me
what I
too.
said when we talked about it early on. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we
But
don't, neither of us agrees politically,
yes. And
but there you go.
don't knock it till you tried it. And plus, it says nothing about me lying with another woman. So how, I'm equal opportunity hate, and you're not doing it, so you don't get to.
That's funny.
So the next number that we see is 1538, which is our countdown clock. Speak to the Israelites and say to them throughout the generations to come to you and make tassels on the corners of your garments with blue cord on each tassel. No clue.
I was going to say, please explain to me how you're going to link that.
Yeah, I don't know. That one, yeah. I'll have to go back and see if there's any references to blue garments or hemming of clothing or tassels or anything like that.
The only tassels I can think of were at the toad vine.
That's funny. Let's see. I have to keep going. 1301 and 1302 because we were counting down. It went 1302, 1301. Mm-hmm. But Proverbs 13:01, a wise son heareth his father's instructions, but a scorner heareth not rebuke. Which we have actually seen in this show before. I do remember reading this exact line, and it was
Really?
Yes, it was actually in one of the episodes where we see a flashback of Jesse and his dad, and so yeah, we had that where it tied right into the episode, and so I think in this episode we may interpret it as maybe a wise son heareth his father's instruction, and it was God, instructing them, but a scorner heareth not rebuke, and Jesse was like, "You're not God,"
right?
So yes, but we have seen that line previously.
I think it could also potentially relate to Sheriff Root and Eugene.
Yeah. There's also Matthew 13:01, which is the parable of the sower. That same day, Jesus left the house and went to the lakeside where he sat down to teach. The crowd that gathered around him was so large that he got into a boat and sat in it. While the crowd stood on the shore, he used his parables to tell them many things. And it goes on, but this is actually a very famous painting that you see a lot of on social media, and it usually is attached to a meme where is preaching to
where
so
Jesus is like, did I stutter?
Yeah, where he's like, oh my God, you guys, I said I hate figs, like, So that was Matthew 13:01 because, you just type in Bible and a number and a couple of things usually come up. So Corinthians 13:01, though I speak with the tongues of men and angels, but I have no charity. I have become as sounding brass or thinking cymbal. Mm-hmm. So speaking many tongues, could that may be Genesis? I don't know. We had a lot of people making grandiose speeches in this episode.
And it could definitely be the false god, too.
Yeah. I become a sounding brass or tinkling cymbal. Yeah, definitely. I had another. Oh, no. I guess I just had that one twice. And I had that one twice? Or am I not closing these right?
What about 1302?
I think that was part of.
Okay.
I read the whole thing.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, so took me the second watching, and I only know this I only really like thought of this or took note because I live in a town where there's a ton of tour buses and shuttles and stuff. And we frequently call them in to their, report them to their dispatch because they drive like jerks.
Right.
They have numbers on them.
Oh, so did the Distant Vistas bus have a number on it?
Oh, you got the name.
Ah, of course I did. Yeah.
This is shuttle number 17. A prayer of David. Psalm 17. Hear me, Lord. My plea is just. Listen to my cry. Hear my prayer. It does not rise from deceitful lips.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jesse, maybe?
Well, I think a lot of the congregation, they were left, with their questions unanswered, and they were left very, very distraught. And there was probably a lot of crying and maybe some praying, and people went there for answers, and they got a lie.
They did.
Yeah.
And it changed everything.
Yeah.
Well, I had one thing. It wasn't a number, but when the angel who was pretending to be God referred to himself, he described himself as the Alpha and the Omega and the bright morning star. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wait a minute. I thought Lucifer was the morning star.
The morning star.
So I looked it up, and actually, Lucifer is the morning star. Jesus referred to himself as the morning star. Mary, the mother of Jesus, was referred to as the morning star, and so was John the Baptist.
Huh.
Which I didn't know. I just thought that was really crazy to have all of those different personas be referred to in the same way, including Lucifer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And, I always think, for me, the morning star is the sun, right?
No, I think the morning star is Venus.
Oh.
Now I'm going to have to look, because I don't remember which planet is the morning star.
So there's an Ezekiel.
Yeah, Venus is the morning star.
Oh.
Oh, no, wait a minute. I'm lying to you. Oh, it's called the morning star and the evening star.
Ah, okay. Huh. Because I was thinking maybe it has something to do with shining down from heaven or something.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. I just thought it was really interesting.
That is interesting.
Not pertinent to the series, really, but interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, because once you said it, I was like, wait, no, that's Lucifer.
Right.
But I guess it's everybody who likes to call themselves the morning star. I'm the morning star.
There you go. You are the morning star. We're going to call you that from now on.
So Ezekiel 17, 2 eagles and a vine. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, set forth an allegory and tell it to the Israelites and the parable. Say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. A great eagle with powerful wings, long feathers, and full plumage of varied colors come to Lebanon, taking hold of the top of the cedar. He broke off its topmost shoot and carried it away to the land of merchants, where he planted it in the city of traders.
Oh my God, that is too much.
Yeah, I don't know where that one went. Like, I mean, unless they're going to go to a city of traders. That's where God is.
That is traders, Traders, correct?
Correct.
Not traitors.
Traitors. No, John 17, Jesus' prayers be glorified. After Jesus said this, he looked toward the heaven and prayed, Father, the hour has come. Glorify your Son, that your Son may glorify you. For grant him authority over all people, that he might be given eternal life to all those he has given to him. Now this is eternal life, that they may know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. I have brought you glory to the earth by finishing the work you gave to me. And now, Father, glorify me with your presence, with the glory I had with you before the world began.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think it says a whole lot of the same thing kind of over and over, but it kind of has to do with the word, I think. Uh, grant him authority over all people.
Oh, okay. I can see
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So yeah, I think on that one, I think we're sticking to the Psalms one. Hear me, Lord, my plea just. Yeah. So there was a whole lot of numbers. There's actually two more numbers in the countdown: 0005 and 0004, which I mean, that was really stretching. There wasn't a lot to go on there, but I think we got our fill of numbers.
We definitely did.
Yeah.
I'm a little numbered out.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were a couple more things that I just wanted to say about the episode. I thought it was super funny that they ended up back in their conversation about Big Lebowski again.
I guess this is actually going to be a running theme, according to Talking Preacher.
That makes me happy because I love the Big Lebowski. I am definitely not on Cassidy's side on this one.
I love that
It's a shite film.
He can't believe that, like, she's like, everyone likes it. I love that scene. That was a good scene.
And then I thought it was super funny that Jesse did demonstrate to us that he still has the word by telling Tulip to kiss him, and then she punches him and tells him never to do that again.
Was that genuine on her part? Did she genuinely not? Does she just not want to be ordered to? Or
I think she wanted to kiss him. I don't think she liked being forced to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
That's about all I've got.
I have one little last thing that I had it written down on my my notes for this episode, and I just wikied it. The diner that they were eating in at the end was the Five Aces Diner, and it's spelled out the word five. And according to Headhunter Horror House Wiki, the Five Aces Diner is a fictional business featured in the Preacher comic book series by Vertigo. It appears on the first page of Preacher #1 in April 1995.
I remember it.
First location presented in the series. The Five Aces Diner was a small eatery located in West Texas. Jesse Custer, Tulip O'Hare, and Cassidy stopped there for a bite to eat while on their journey to discover the truth behind the Genesis entity.
Well, there you go. So that is totally... It totally leads into the second season, rather, that picks up where the comic book starts.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
We end at the beginning.
Yes. Which is probably a signal to us to wrap it up.
I think that is a perfect place to wrap it up.
I do have a question. So I think we should probably do some kind of recap before season 2 starts, and I'm not sure if you want to do anything else. So we should probably talk about that offline, but we can at least tell people we've got a recap coming up before June 25th.
Yes.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah. So give us a like, give us a share, give us some feedback on the show, rate us wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're on the Facebook page, what would you ask Monty Python God?
I like that.
If you had one question, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna go on the Facebook page and post that just to be safe and make sure we catch people who didn't hear this episode.
Alrighty, so Tulip, till the end of the
world.
Good night.
Good night.
I left his body in the woods, and I took off running south. I left his body